everybody, and welcome to GenFriends. I'm your host, Cheri Hudson-Passy from Carolina Girl Genealogy. And of course, I've got this fabulous panel that just, is here and supportive and backs me up every week. You never know what I'm going to do, right, people? Anyways, with me tonight, we've got Mary Kircher Roddy from MKR Genealogy. Hello, Mary.
Hey there. Good to
Nice,
be here.
nice to have you here. We've got Melissa Barker, archive lady. Hello, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
So grateful that you're here too. And we've got Jenny Hawran from Like Herding Cats Genealogy. Her cat's not here tonight. But we're glad that you are. Thanks
Thank
for
you. Happy to be here.
she put him outside.
Mhm.
So he wouldn't
Not
sit
outside the room.
outside the room so he wouldn't sit on her head. But I figured you guys would probably like to see that. But oh well, that's okay. And last but not least, we have got Laura Hedgecock from Treasure Chest of Memories. Hello, Laura.
Hi, hi.
It's good to see you. And where's Penny tonight?
She is at my feet. She
Okay.
exhausted herself chasing little pieces of sunlight, and now she's sound asleep.
Oh, that's so cute. Mary's
Sweet.
got cats too. One of these days, Mary, you're gonna have to introduce us to your cats, okay?
They're a
Yeah.
little shy. They're a little
Yeah.
shy, but Whitney sometimes comes up on my desk.
Oh, my two dogs and my two cats are locked out when I do these recordings because my dogs will start barking at something outside, and I've got one cat particularly that likes to walk across my keyboard and change
Oh,
my
yes.
settings around. So they're grounded to the hallway or wherever else they want to go in the house. They usually sit, especially one of my dogs, right by the door because he's not happy that he's not in here. Anyway, so guys, we're on day 7 of Relative Race, day 7, and what a day it was. It was fabulous. We started out the day with wondering who on earth Team Blue was going to give the 3 minutes to, because remember because they won on day 6, so their benefit was to have 3 minutes off their time, and they could give 3 minutes to another team. So we wondered who that might be, and we had a few people put in the YouTube video the comments who they thought it would be. So it was interesting to hear your comments and your theories as to who they would give it to. So thank you for doing that. But we don't find out who they're going to give it to until the very end. So we won't mention that till we get there. But they did, when they got in the car, they did have some theories about each of the teams who they could give it to. And I thought that was really interesting. Who they could
They
give
were,
it by.
they were really weighted down by
Yeah.
the the magnitude of the decision.
Yeah, it's hard, I think. It's hard because whatever they did could really affect their game, so they have to be careful as to, who they give that to. So I wouldn't want to have to decide that. I'd be afraid that I would pick the wrong team and then it would blow up in my face.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Mary, you look like you had a comment on that.
No, I was just brushing my hair back, but yeah, it was
Oh.
yeah, I mean, and if they had picked another team that they would have
Hmm.
it would have blown up in their
Yeah,
face because it was
exactly.
close enough
Yeah,
that
Mhm.
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes those benefits are hard, they're a benefit, but there's some consequences to getting that benefit. So we start out the day again as they're, saying goodbye to their family, which we know is always so hard. But they've got a new relative to meet. So, you've got to get going. And I think it's so funny how many people say, why aren't you already packed? Why don't you have your suitcases in the car? And so yeah, why aren't you already packed? Your suitcases in the car. And why are you on this long walk in the morning? That's a yak. But I think a lot of that is editing too, it's just
Yeah.
to make it look good for us. And they do need to spend that time, eating breakfast. Team Black was making what were they making? They were making
Pistoli.
that's right, they were making pasoli, and I was like, oh, I wish we had smell-o-vision because that looks
Yeah, it
I
looked good.
know. I have a neighbor that makes it for the whole neighborhood every New Year's
oh
Day. Oh,
gosh.
wow. We all eat it for New Year's Day.
Mm.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to come visit you once on New Year's Day because I haven't had any good pozole since we left New Mexico. So I'd love to have some. That sounds great. That sounds great. Um,
And they
They're
also got David also saw a photo of Christina's mom.
yes. He also got to see her and what she looks like now. Yeah. Remember, that's his oldest sister, and she's the one that was holding him as a baby. Right.
Right.
Evangelina is her name. So yeah,
Evangeline did that.
he was able to see her. And I think, all of those photos and everything, he just, oh, I just love watching his face when he gets to see, a picture or get some information about his family. There's just, you can just see the delight and the just, he's been waiting for those answers for so long. I love seeing his reaction to that. So, but yeah, so I think he and Raylene are working really well together. I think that was a good choice to have her
I do
come.
too.
Yeah, and take Gabby's place. They seem to be doing well. Um, I'm thinking I don't think anybody had a really terribly horrible, difficult time getting to the challenge. It looked like they were, but again, it's the way they edit it, but they didn't show anything too horrible, or am I forgetting?
They never really show much getting to the challenge. They
Yeah,
just
not
get there
really.
and drive up.
And I
Yeah.
think it's the editing, but
Yeah.
it's, to me, when I'm watching it, it's almost like none of them look at the maps at all. But they may look at the maps and they may cut that part out because it's like they
Exactly.
immediately go to asking people,
Exactly.
and they strike out every time.
Yeah.
You
So
know, and it's like you never see them looking at the maps, and I'm like, look at the maps, and this is coming from a girl who is directionally challenged. I can't do maps either, but I mean, I think I could do a map enough, maybe,
yeah.
to
And I
maybe to
agree with
get
you.
myself close.
I think I think it's just the way they're editing. I think
Yeah.
it's because we as viewers for so long have said we want to see them with their families. And so they're trying
Yeah.
to have a little bit more footage of them with their families and without cutting out the other parts of the race completely.
The
Yeah.
other thing with the maps is we've never seen exactly what maps they have and what is the scale of those maps. I mean,
Exactly.
if they're giving them state maps,
And you know what
are they getting county maps?
They're certainly not getting city maps, because how many times have you run
No.
into a gas station or a library, anything, and just say, "Do you have a city map?" Like week before last, somebody did, and it ended up being a brochure and not even a map. And so it's not city maps. Well, they couldn't do that anyway, because if they started looking through their maps, they're going to see where they're going.
The state map might have an inset of a city,
Mhm.
but if it's a small town, that's not going to be on a state map.
Nope.
So,
And it's going to only have the main road. So
right.
if even, a lot of roads aren't going to be on there. It's just more orientation.
Exactly.
And two, if there's a lot, if these places are like any other places in the United States, there is so much building and new building going on that a lot of these streets and places may be new. And then we also know that a lot of these places are going to are Airbnbs.
Yes.
And I know that there are a lot of developers who are building nothing but Airbnbs. They're not building them for residences. They're building for Airbnbs. And so they could be new construction that's Airbnbs.
That's so true. That's very, very true.
And not on the map yet.
Yeah, not even on the map yet. Well, we've talked in the past about how we miss the texting, but it sounds like they're just not showing it to us because they were getting the text from the other teams, because they wanted to say, "Hey, don't forget us today when you're in." And Team Green, they said we text them every day.
Every day. Yeah.
And so we haven't seen any of that.
Nope.
They've been texting each other, and so they just texted. I mean, Leland was just gonna her mom wanted to put all this wink wink, we love you, remember us, give us a thing. She says no.
I'm not doing that suck up stuff.
I thought that was really cute.
But the fact that Leland has decided that it's because it started in Philadelphia that the final is going to have a Constitution thing, and
I
she's
love that.
quizzing her mother on her constitutional knowledge just cracked me up.
I know.
Reading the Constitution as they're trying.
I mean, there's
Hysterical.
a logic to that.
There is
Sure.
logic. Yeah. And then
It
we're
started
going
in Philadelphia. It could be about casting bells, but maybe about the Constitution.
Who knows what is So we're gonna, not laugh. We're gonna say how smart was she when it comes to that at the end. She was right. So Leland, maybe you're right. We don't know. But that was just
It never hurts to know the Constitution.
That's true.
Right. But how much are you going to take in driving down the street trying to find where you're going to have your challenge and keeping to the speed limit, obeying the rules, and you're stressed out and all that kind of stuff, wondering who you're going to meet. So I don't know how much either one of them got out of that reading, but it was really, really funny. Team Black said we need to we need to send them a text just for our insurance. That's what they said. Insurance purposes, they needed to send them a text. I thought that was really funny. And then Team Red said about the same thing, we love you, remember us, so at least we got a few text messages, but I've missed that from the season, is we're really not getting that back and
I
forth.
haven't really missed that.
Oh, you haven't? Well, when it's fun, I think it's really great to kind of see their personalities
when
and
it's funny,
their relationships to each other. Yeah, I don't like the ones where it makes it sound like they're arguing when they're really not. It's just the way it was edited, but yeah, when they're funny and we're just seeing their relationships. I do miss that. So, but yeah. So next is they get to the challenge, and so I'm trying to remember the name of that challenge.
Combat cues.
Combat cues. Yes,
that looked hard.
That was hard, and definitely nothing we could do at a family reunion because those suckers for us.
But it would be way too much setup and production and stuff.
Yeah. Now, so somebody smarter than me, will you explain to everybody in case they didn't see this challenge what the heck was going on there?
Well, it was kind of like a pool thing. They had to get different colored things in different colored holes.
Right.
But instead of being on a table with rim, it's like on a mock-up of a boat, and there's a move, and some were straight lines, but you could move a piece of it to make things. And then the hardest one was just there was no rim, so if you hit it too hard, it would just roll off.
Right.
But I think the balls were weighted very funny, because I think that's what they had trouble with, is figuring out how hard to hit them, because they would be super bouncy or.
Right.
Well, it was that green one that was hard, that you could go right off the edge.
Yeah.
Yes,
I forget who it was, worked out a bank shot, because there were some bumpers on the table, and they worked out a bank shot where it went that way, and then took enough of the juice off of it that it was going slower and got into the green hole.
Right. That was clever.
Right off the edge.
And then they could move it. They could pull it to the side. And I don't know if it was just the way it was edited. I didn't see Team Red moving theirs for a while. I don't know if they ever figured out they could actually move it, but it might have been the way it was edited, but it could have been just me when I was watching. But I don't remember seeing them, anybody going, pulling the side, and helping to.
And they needed to move it to get into one of the holes that was underneath that tower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that was the yellow one.
Yellow. I think that was yellow.
Yeah.
It was black for one of the teams. That's why I didn't understand. They had some different colored balls.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Interesting. But we had two teams time out. So you could tell it was a difficult.
Yeah.
So black and red, right? They both.
Yeah, and Black, they said that they both played pool, and I thought they were pretty decent at it. And
David says I'm not gonna be able to look my friends in the face.
I know, but
I think that's hard. Probably what made it harder, because you're kind of going a lot on muscle memory, and you needed to rethink everything because it's a different way.
Well, in pool, you don't have the obstacles that they had to overcome.
Right. And you have walls around the whole table.
Go off. Yeah. And it goes at a different speed. The whole thing's different. Yeah.
Right. So I think this is the most difficult one I think I remember seeing. I mean, it was put together. That was a lot of detail, being an aircraft carrier, and that was interesting. I would like to talk to the person that came up with that one.
Yeah.
That was amazing, to even come up with that kind of detail and it was a good idea, but man, it looked hard. It looked really, really, I wouldn't have been able to, if I'd have been on a team we would have timed out unless there was somebody else who knew what they were doing. There's no way I could have done that. I can't even do it on a regular pool table, let alone an aircraft carrier where you can move things around and things won't go in the hole. Yeah, wouldn't have been my thing.
So interestingly, though, a lot of things that are really hard that way, it's always at a disadvantage to the female teams. But this one, both the all female teams didn't time out.
That's
I don't know
right.
if they did well, but they didn't
time out.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's true.
Good point. That's a really good point, Laura. It's a really good point because it does. Yeah. So they might not have been pool sharks, but they got the balls in and they didn't time out. So too funny. And I think Team Red, they only got 2 balls into, and I don't remember if Black got in. I mean, I remember that they timed out, but Team Red only got 2 in to begin with. So by the time it was over, I don't know. It was a hard one. That was a hard challenge. So that's probably going to go down in history as one of the hardest that relative race has ever had. So that's a good question to ask fans and people that watch. What is the hardest challenge you ever remember them having? And does this rank up with the?
Well, I'd still rather play the pool than eat some of those foods that they've had to eat.
Oh yes. Ugh.
Rather be frustrated than sick.
Yeah, or smell some of the things they had to smell, or touch things that they've had to touch, even though it was your own teammate. So they've had some really fun ones. Let's move on to the really important thing about who they met. And again, it didn't look like anybody's having too much trouble getting to the relative. We did have people run in and ask. And of course, as Melissa says, nobody ever knows where anything is because and it was so cute because who was it? Was it Team Black that said we're on a TV show and we can't ask for GPS?
Yeah.
And then people
I've
were
heard that a couple of times this season from the teams. They say I'm on a TV show or I'm in a contest or something like that. Right. And so, I find that kind of interesting that they allow them to say that.
Yeah, I guess that helps explain why they need help.
Yeah, because otherwise people are like, use your phone, dude.
Yeah.
Is your battery dead on your phone?
I'm sure they sound pretty desperate. I'm trying to find this place.
Exactly. So it was just another one of those great nights with great, wonderful reunions with family. So, who would like to go first with whichever team you want to go?
Go ahead and start. Okay. Of course, who I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I think Team Blue.
Yeah. So I've had a bet with myself for the last week. Because I know, I'm like backtracking.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, she has to meet her mom and her dad.
Right.
So that's going to be day 8 and day 9.
Yeah.
And most likely. Day 7, it's not going to be either one of them. It's going to be an uncle, or an aunt. Oh, so I figured that out.
You're so good.
And then I was like betting because I know all the roads. And it's like, okay, they're in Yakima. They've got to get over Snoqualmie Pass to get into the greater Seattle area where mom and dad are. So it's either going to be Ellensburg and Cle Elum. And I bet Ellensburg to myself. And I won, of course.
So where is Ellensburg and what is it like? Since you live in the area, so quick, this behind the scenes stuff.
Ellensburg is on Interstate 90. Central Washington University. We have 2 big universities, University of Washington and Washington State Universities. And then we have kind of another range there's 4 smaller universities. And so Central Washington is in Ellensburg. Also big ranch town. One of my friends, they've inherited her husband's, great-great-grandfather's hundreds of acres of cattle ranch. Nice. And she was named Cattle Woman of the Year. So it's a big cattle country. Yeah. So anyway, so that's Ellensburg. It's definitely a cow town here in Washington.
Some of these
Exactly. That's cool.
So they met her uncle, her dad's brother, and
first she thought that was
Les Arkle.
Yeah, she thought it was her dad. It could be your dad to begin with. Yeah.
But he was really a hoot just talking about how much trouble. And he was the older brother and just he was, getting
it was really fun.
himself and his little brother in trouble, but it almost sounded like he was dragging his little brother along so he wouldn't get all the punishment while you're in it too. So anyway, he had
and I
fun
thought it
stories
was
to tell.
wonderful that he was a recipient, is the recipient of 2 Purple Hearts. I thought that was amazing. That was,
and that's the military connection, that they talked about from the very
right.
beginning, that they were going to celebrate or commemorate,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Mary.
Well, and it was interesting. They had a friend who brought his old car that they used to tool around in.
A
And
Bonneville.
so that was really
Yes.
cool.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. And that helped her too to kind of see that side of her father and, her paternal side. So how cool was that? I loved that.
One thing I will say,
Okay.
and again, this is just, I'm probably obsessive detective here. They had a bunch of his stuff at the house, this military stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of investigated where he lived, and he doesn't live in that town. So I think they brought that stuff over, the military stuff, and set it out as a display there.
Yeah.
So I know people comment that, you could tell by, what's on the walls, whether it's an Airbnb or not.
Not necessarily.
Not always. They may decorate it for.
They can stage it. Right, they can stage it. Yeah, absolutely. Because they're telling a story about that relative too.
Yes, exactly.
The story about the relative is the story of their family. And so, they want to do that. So
she would want to be able to see that stuff, that what makes
Exactly.
it really tick. So yeah.
Absolutely.
One thing she said, Joni said was, and maybe she found this out on a previous episode, or was it tonight? She said that she found out that her dad did know about her, and that he got to hold her. She said that it was just like one line, and it was like, well, wait, did they say
Wait a minute? No.
Mother told her that.
I just haven't been paying attention.
Didn't her uncle tell her that? Isn't that
that
information?
I guess I wasn't sure where we heard that from.
Yeah,
so
he said that in last night's episode, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What a cool thing to find out.
Yeah.
That your dad knew about you and he actually held you when you were a baby.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, that was really a sweet find. And another thing that she said, that she says, or I think it was her daughter that was saying this, we would have never done this on our own, and we wouldn't have the answers that we have now, and we probably would have been just content with what we thought were the answers, the answers that you kind of make up as an adoptee in your head about your family. And so how grateful she was that they had taken the opportunity to go on this journey. So, and we're grateful too. We're grateful that they do this and let us see their journeys and are open and let us see what they're doing. And it's especially fun, for when they come to our towns. How Mary is our location, especially fun. So it was really funny. I saw somebody posted, we think we saw the relative race car the other day. Somebody went, no, they're not filming right now. Darn! That would have been, if somebody said, yeah, actually, you probably did because they're filming. That would have been really cool.
Where were they?
I don't remember. But
if
wherever they were is not,
maybe they were just getting maintenance done on the cars. They're just driving it to the shop.
Who knows? I think that's really funny that somebody, because I think we're more, those of us that are fans, when we know that they're out filming, we're probably looking more than, if we happen to see one of those cars out, it would be fun. Oh, I would love to do that. I would love to see one of those cars running down the road and then finding out, oh my gosh, I really did see it. They were in my location. Okay, that's Team Blue. How about Team Green? Anybody want to talk about Team Green?
Yeah, I'll do Team Green.
Okay, Jenny will do it.
I'll do it. So they went to, Jen and Leland went to Gallup, New Mexico. Yes. And like Laura said, they were studying the Constitution on their way there, which I loved. And so Jen met her brother, another brother, Eric, who had the greatest mustache ever.
Goodness.
I wondered if maybe he wasn't a reenactor of some kind.
He was,
I thought that myself, Melissa. I thought the same thing.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And what I thought was really interesting about this meeting was, I think I felt I saw a side of Jen that was, you got a little insight to her, maybe to her upbringing, because he was talking about he was talking about all the things that they did on the water, and that he learned to water ski, and they did all these things. And one of the first things she had said was, she was picked on because of her hair growing up, and she always wanted a brother, to stick up for her when she was bullied. And we hadn't heard that before, so specifically. And then when he was talking about all the time on the water and the family and the cousins and stuff like that, she just said, I didn't have that. I didn't have that. And you really felt for her that, the meaning of this whole journey, really was expressed by her saying that, because she said, I just didn't have cousins that lived nearby. It was just me, basically, until my parents adopted my sister, and I was 11 at the time. And so I thought that was
so to go from very small family, and I don't think she was complaining about, her family life. It was just
not at all.
So different.
Yeah.
This huge family. So
So I thought that was a very sweet
Did anyone
meeting.
else, as she was talking about that, Jenny, they were showing pictures of her as a baby and as a toddler and stuff. And I was really looking hard, and I couldn't tell that she was wearing a wig or anything. And I wonder if her affliction came like later in life. I mean, she mentioned being in school and not having any hair, but those young pictures, it didn't look like, it looks like she had her own hair. So I just wondered if that came later.
Yeah.
And we still haven't had anyone ask any of the family members yet.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. So we still don't know if there's going to be any answers to that, to see if it's genetic. It must be, because they both have the same issue. Both Jen and Leland, right?
I just know that was the very beginning. It still sticks in my mind. That's the thing they wanted to find out. And so.
Yeah. Well, and maybe they just don't. Maybe they wanted to, but those answers don't come on this journey, but that we get to see, but maybe they will find it out as they meet more people off the show. Maybe they'll find out. So, but they're both so sweet. I'd love to.
They're very sweet.
I'd love to have both of them as a friend, wouldn't you? I mean,
very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. So their story is just, it's just endearing. And her, Jen, both of them, and Leland as well, their reactions to meeting their family members they're always just so genuine and so loving, and their family members are so loving to them that, it'd be fun to be a fly on the wall at their next huge family reunion.
Right.
Just see all that. It would be so much fun.
I don't know how to say this, but to me, they're like people that are easy to be with, kind of almost like low maintenance, kind of like if you say hi, I love you, they take that at face value, and they don't question it, and they just accept it, and
yeah, exactly. I agree with you, Laura. I agree with you. So just good people. They're just good people, right?
Well, all of them are. They're just different.
Oh, I know. They all are. Yeah, absolutely. All righty. What about Team Black? We got to do red last, because that was just a killer. Both Black and red.
Well, Black, so they get to the house, and this cute lady comes out, and she looks at them. They introduce themselves, and she says, "Where's Gabby?"
Yeah.
And so David's explaining, he said, well, she got ill and she had to drop out. And you could see, she's like, I'm her cousin, and I'm upset. Gabby.
Yeah.
And so that had to be very hard for, David and Raylene to handle. But they basically, what they ended up doing was Zooming with Gabby, who was in the hospital. But it was so sweet, because she was just thinking they were just checking up on her, and she didn't realize she was going to get to meet someone.
Right.
And I'm sure there was editing and stuff, but the way they did it turned out really good between Gabby and Sandra, and them getting to meet each other. And Oh, also, what the cousin said is the reason I need to meet her is she needs to know she has someone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
a selfish thing. She had this mission that she wanted to do. So it was very sweet. And I think you were saying beforehand, Cheri, I don't think we've had that before where
that's another relative race first. We've had Zoom calls before to relatives, but this is the first time with a relative that was in the hospital because she got sick and couldn't do the show. And then and then they just
And
went
I was thinking about it because we mentioned before we started taping, we mentioned the fact that, how they didn't, maybe the producers didn't tell her cousin about everything. But you have to think about it. This was in real time, obviously. And so it was, 10 days in a row. So it's the next day. And so, I would maybe I said they didn't have time, but maybe they were just letting it flow like they had it planned. And then and go ahead and put in where, they would Zoom with Gabby. So,
right. Yeah. Because we said, why didn't they let her know? That's a good question.
Things I thought was really sweet was even before the Zoom call, that David, I mean, he was prepared. He had a picture of Gabby and her dad. And so to be able to show, so even though Gabby wasn't there, he could show Sandra, this is who she is.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought that was really sweet. So it'll be interesting to see if that was going to be the only, what's going to happen the next couple of days. Is it going to be David's turn the next couple of days? Was that the only relative left for Gabby? And so they just did it that way. I don't know, but we know David's got a lot of siblings unless they do a sibling day. Just have them all at once. It'll be really interesting to see what happens because I want him to meet the rest of his siblings,
Do you remember, I don't remember what season it was, but there was an African-American family where they took the person out into the backyard and there was all of these people back there.
Yes.
That's kind of the experience he needs to have.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he needs to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful to see. I don't know if he could emotionally handle it. I don't know if he could emotionally handle it watching him. But yeah, big old family reunion. That's what he needs. Absolutely. So just another season full of firsts. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen when you're recording live with people. You just
and you're dealing with people,
real people.
Real people. And you think about when they're recording, that's like I said, it's 10 days and they're going from one day to the next day to the next day. And in our own lives, things happen from day to day.
Exactly.
And and we've seen it already in some other seasons, where what Jokobi or whatever, his mother got ill and had to stop. And so things happen. And us sitting here talking about this, we cannot imagine the stress, the emotions, the everything. And that takes a toll on a body. I mean, you think about the stress of your own life. Imagine, and then you're and then you're and then you're having to learn to read maps and you're having to find people's houses and traffic and the interstate and put all that with it too. So
Exactly. Oh goodness. That was sweet though. I'm glad they went ahead and did that and didn't
me too.
kind of figure out something else that, and let Gabby still have that experience even though she was in the hospital. I'm very, very glad that they did that. So what about Team Red? Who can handle it?
Melissa can handle it.
Team Red was wonderful. She met her father. And I will say that man has a fantastic head of hair.
Oh my gosh.
He came out of that door and it was just flowing. It reminded me, do y'all remember, y'all are all look like ladies of the 70s. Do you remember some of those hair shampoo commercials where even the men had the long flowing hair?
Yes.
But he is a man that I would like to meet. That man. He is was such a sweet. He seems very kind-hearted. Sometimes people's personalities come straight through that television at you.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just, and then, not to do any spoilers, but at the very end, even Dan said from the very second they told him, because he didn't know about her.
Oh, no, we didn't. Yeah.
That the second they told him, he was all in, and that's how Dan described it. And I thought,
they said
wow.
that, like 3 different people said that.
Yeah.
Those words, all in.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and you could tell it. You could absolutely tell it.
And she was so sweet. You have my face.
Yeah.
Well, when she came up the driveway, he came out of the door, and she immediately knew who it was, and she stopped and she said, I almost hit the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like
he
it
had
was
her
what,
face.
yeah, I mean, I feel like it was one of the best reunions that I've ever seen because she was just sobbing, and it was just, you could just tell what it meant to her,
exactly.
and
he said, I'm sorry, I'm such a baby.
Oh,
and my thought was, you're his baby.
No.
Yes.
But what I liked is she's like, before she got out of the car, she saw the resemblance.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said, and she put it together. He looks like me,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think the most unique thing, and I think this, like you said, this is another season of first. But he and his wife, of course, he introduced his wife, who would be her stepmother.
Yes.
And they had put together a journal.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, a journal. No, because I think this was maybe before we found out he didn't know about her, but a journal from the moment that he was called from relative race, and he said this, until that day, emails and communications and their thoughts and their everything, and they put it all together for her. And I thought, wow, what an awesome thing to think to even do.
Yeah.
When you are probably dealing with your own emotions and your own whatever's trying to cope with this. So I would love to see, they showed a little bit of it, but it would be really neat to see something like that. And and because I mean he put his thoughts in there and their thoughts in there, and I think that'd just gonna be a true treasure for her.
Maybe we can.
But it kind of broke my heart because you could see he was already fighting to not lose any more time.
Yes.
He felt so robbed.
He did. Yeah.
But he, like you said, he directed it towards her. Like, what can I do? I can make sure she understands how excited we are.
And this is one of the few times.
And his wife T was just right there with him.
Oh yeah.
This is one of the few times, and Cheri, and those of you that have watched all of the seasons, I haven't watched all the seasons, that I can remember that a parent had these emotions. Like Laura said, he didn't say it in this way, but he felt robbed.
Yes.
And I honestly can't remember a parent communicating that. Can you? Who was it? I mean, probably before when I wasn't watching, but
I can't remember who. I just know I've heard it, and then it was also kind of like, well, now you can. It was almost like, well, now you're ours. Now we know who you are. Now you're ours. And they were like, yeah, but I got really nice parents. I remember it.
I can't remember what season, but I know what you're talking about too, because they kind of came on a little too strong, I think. They're like, well, yeah, I've got parents, but this is just an addition to my parents that raised me.
I think any of the contestants that have been on Relative Race would have loved to have had this kind of reunion.
Oh yeah,
with their
that kind of reaction. Oh yeah, absolutely. It was.
He didn't know. There's also no hard questions for her to have to ask him, like, why did you make you know what I mean?
Yes. He didn't know. Yeah.
Well, and I was glad to see on social media today that I don't know if it was Dan or who it was that posted just how she's still really happy about it.
Oh yeah. Oh,
because with that situation, it could be one of those. It's come on too strong and
by now they've kind of had to back up a little bit.
Yeah. And that can happen with there's these kind of reunions that not everybody's in the headspace, and some people don't understand that you can't give up what has been your whole life.
Right.
There still is a very large, piece of your life that involves these other people that aren't this new person.
Yeah, exactly.
I get the feeling that Kaylee's been waiting for this her whole life, though.
Yeah.
She's kind of all in too.
Yeah.
At least on camera, it seems that way.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It was just it was a wonderful reunion. I can't wait to hear from them later, maybe when we have a reunion show, just how things are going. And I don't know. I want to know more about how things are going with them.
Yeah.
What was the name of, it was also a red team, and the girl met her brother.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say Tiffany.
No,
Is that right?
It's Tiffany. Yeah. She's come back on the show before, and they're still very, very close. Yeah.
And you can
As a
tell
matter of
with
fact, the
them,
last time Tiffany was on with us, her brother was going to come, but it didn't work out. So that was sad because they're still very much
but
hanging out
it
with
was
each other.
To be by the other
on the reunion.
That I don't know, Mary. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. It could
I
have
thought
been
one of them moved to
maybe.
be closer to the sibling.
Yeah, they did. One moved to be close. Yeah.
So cool. That is so cool. It's just wonderful because
So where's Kaylee live normally?
where does she live normally? Do you know what? I don't remember where they're from. Does anybody remember? Sorry, Kaylee.
I don't remember.
No, I don't.
Where's your book? Isn't that your job?
To try to remember everything about every team for every
Well, she
season.
writes it down.
Yeah. So I don't remember. I just don't remember. I'm so sorry.
I have to dig into all the documents, and you have to keep the history log.
I have to keep the history up. Exactly. We'll have people commenting, going, she's from here. I'll be, I'm sorry. There's a lot of teams over the years. It's hard to remember everything about every team, but we love them. And we love it when they come back on and talk to us. And so
yes.
Yeah, we love it. So what another wonderful night. Is there anything we missed before we go into?
Well, Dan at the end got choked up. I mean, I know he
that's
gets
true.
choked up on a regular basis, but he really did. He really did last night. So
yes, he he did, and it's natural. It's not faked for the TV, for the episode. He's really good. So as they get back together, and after Dan's choked up, he has to get down to business. And he asks Team Blue, okay, you get your 3 minutes off. Who are you going to give it to? Drum roll, please. Who would like to answer that question?
They gave it to Team Black. They thought
Black.
Team Black had kind of suffered from losing Gabby, and so they thought it would be helpful for them.
Exactly. And like we said at the beginning, we were talking about it could have blown up in their faces. It really could have blown up in their faces. So because it really switched the top two teams around. So they
Blue would have come in second.
Yeah.
But they were that close to green.
Yeah.
That it put them in first place again.
Exactly. So that they lucked out with that. And then unfortunately, even though Team Black had that 3 minutes, it didn't help them.
No, they still got fourth.
They still came in fourth. And so now they've got 3 strikes. Now in previous seasons, that would have been it for them.
Yeah.
They would have had those 3 strikes and that would have been it.
They still have an opportunity to maybe not necessarily. They're going to have to rely on other teams to get strikes though, because they get that penalty on day 10.
Yes, so. on day 9, yeah.
So they're probably still going to have the penalty on day 9 or day 10 regardless, because
I don't know how anybody else. Well, who else has got 2 strikes? Somebody else
got 2.
Red's got 2 strikes. So,
but it's the 2 teams with the most strikes that go head to head. So
that's right. So I don't think
they're going to be either 3 or 4. Number 3,
right,
number 4. There's not any way they can.
Yeah. So I guess we pretty much know that, but that's okay because they still have 2 more days to meet family, and that's really the most important thing is who they meet. And like we said, we need David to meet the rest of his siblings, that we really need that. We need Joni to meet her parents. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Joni to meet her parents. I don't know who else Team Green can meet. She's already met her dad, so maybe it's just more siblings or cousins, or I'm not sure. Is there anybody else? I don't think so. Or maybe get the answer to their question about the hair problem, that would be good. Team, who else? I mean, she had the ultimate last night, unless she's got some more siblings out there. Well, Dan, who else could Dan meet? So
his mother, right? Isn't it his
Oh,
mother?
he's already met his
no,
mom.
not Dan. That was Dave.
Yeah.
That was Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, David still needs to meet his mother. That's
Mhm.
true. She's like 84, they said. Yeah.
Mhm.
So he needs to meet his mother too. So maybe they will just do a big family reunion. So have everybody there. So yeah, there's still more people to go. There's still more people to meet. So 2 more days of meeting relatives. So before we go into day 10 and the challenges. So
Yeah.
anyway.
But it was an enjoyable show. It was good.
Oh,
it was good.
It was very good. It was a very good episode. So
and there was the return of someone familiar or something familiar at the end. The benefit
we almost forgot that.
For Team Blue, their benefit is they do not have to take a city selfie with
That's right.
The rubber chicken.
The rubber chicken is back.
That was very funny.
I love it.
That was funny. That is really funny that they brought back the rubber chicken of all things. Selfie
I know,
with
right?
chicken. So that's really funny. Thanks for remembering that, Jenny.
It's a fan favorite. I think people really love the chicken.
I think they do, yeah.
I think so too. So as we move into day 8 next week, we'd like to hear your comments on things that happen on day 7. Tell us where Kaylee's from. I'm sure somebody will.
So we don't have to find our old notes.
I'm just teasing you, Laura.
Gotta flip back and look and see. We're sorry. It's hard to remember.
Laura, just say that Penny ate your homework. That's all you got to say.
There you go. Penny ate your homework. All right. She couldn't help it. So anyway, well, with that, thank you for watching, and thanks for being loyal viewers. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your comments and your questions. And we will see you next time on GenFriends. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.